Good morning and welcome to West Coast Grandma. This is an update to my update. So almost a year ago, I posted not letting sourdough rule your life. And with almost a year of experience, I am going to update my updated version of making sourdough bread because I've learned a couple of more tricks that make it that much easier. So stick with me and find out how to make sourdough not rule your life. First things first, you definitely want to get everything out, have it in front of you, get it all ready. I've got my flour, salt, starter, water, my bowl, scale, everything, and my recipe. And as you can see by looking at my recipe, I have updated it numerous times. I have it made for 1 or 2 loaves. And I have changed it over this last year, adding, subtracting a bit of water. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our scale on. So there we go. So I've got my bowl on. I've got it set to grams. I'm gonna tare it back to 0. And I'm gonna add my warm water, which will be, as I've changed it, to 625 grams. So you just want to have it ready so that it's quick. And I have everything out here ready to go 2 or 3 minutes. So once you've done it a couple of times, it's really fast. Oh, there we are. So now I'm going to add my salt. And I can't quite figure out why people put salt in and work it into the dough after. I tried it and I didn't find that it tasted any different. So if somebody has an idea as to why you add the salt later, please let me know. I want 20 grams of salt. So we're tearing back. There we go. 20 grams, good. All right, tear it back to 0. And I'm gonna add my starter, which I fed last night before I went to bed. So I've kind of learned about keeping it in the fridge. I get it out a little bit earlier, let it warm up, add the flour and water, half a cup of each before I go to bed, and it's ready to go in the morning. I'm going to use 300 grams of starter, which is nice and bubbly and floating like it's supposed to. There we go. I will feed that again later, and I will just be popping that back into the fridge until I'm ready to go again. So we're just going to give this a stir because I find that the starter, it gets kind of clumpy. Now I'm going to get my flour, and today I am just going to use all-purpose flour. And for me here, this is Rogers flour, which is from BC. And it's unbleached white flour. I often add 1/3 rye. That is pretty well my favorite, but today I'm just going to keep it basic. So we're going to tear it back to 0 again, and I'm going to add 1,000 grams. Seems like a lot. It is quite a bit, but we're making 2 loaves of bread. There we go. All right, we're just going to mix this up. What I want to do here is try to get most of the flour just wet. And then I'm going to let it sit and hydrate for, 15 or 20 minutes. Because it does take a few minutes, especially when you use whole grain flour. It's even more important. I think that should be good. So I am going to let this sit and then I'll come back. And while it's sitting, I'm going to clean up all my ingredients and put everything away, feed my starter, and put it in the fridge. So I'm using my time wisely while I'm waiting for this just to hydrate. So it's been sitting, it's about 15 minutes. I just cleaned up, folded a load of laundry, the usual. We are now going to use our hands, and we are just going to try to get it kind of mixed up and make sure we get all that flour. And if you just kind of scrape the sides here, it kind of rolls off, and then you can get all of that flour mixed in. So we're just going to just knead it a little bit. This is honestly just to get the flour all incorporated in with the liquids. Yeah, we don't want to leave flour in the bottom. So we'll just keep on rubbing the sides. I can always see my mom doing that. She used to make bread always when I was little. Never sourdough though. I'd never heard of sourdough, oh heck, until the last 10 years, I guess. That seems fairly mixed up. Alrighty, I'm just gonna get this dough all off my fingers. And all I'm going to do now is take a piece of plastic wrap, and I find that's the best. A wet tea towel, I find, dries out, especially if it's warm in your house. So I use a piece of plastic wrap. I'm just going to pop this over, and I'll come back when I do the first stretch and fold. So what I do is I do put a tea towel over it as well, just to hold it down at the edges because I don't want it to dry out. So I'll put that over top. I'm going to put it over here on my stove, and I will come back probably in about half an hour. It says about 4 stretch and folds. Honestly, I have done 2. Sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I do them close together because I'm going out, or if I'm around in the house, I'll do 4 if I get around to it. I've also done 1 or 2 first thing and then gone out and come back home and done 1 more stretch and fold later. It still works. So fit that in whenever it's convenient for you. So I will be back in about a half an hour. Okay, let's get this first stretch and fold done. So I'll just uncover my dough. I'm going to wet my fingers. That really stops the dough from sticking. So we're just going to pull it. Look at that. When I do a stretch and fold, I probably go around my bowl probably 3 or 4 times. I'd say like 12 altogether. So we're just going to go around. Just going to scrape it off the same as we did scraping the flour off. And I just keep wetting my fingers because really, you can see it works pretty good. You know, the first hour or so when you're home in the morning, we're always just busy putting around in the house. So it's not all too inconvenient to just stop for 5 minutes and do this. So I'm just going to keep going here just for another half a dozen turns. Then I'm going to cover it up, put it back on my stove, and let it sit for, I don't know, maybe anywhere from half an hour to an hour, somewhere in there. So I will come back again. It's been about an hour and I've decided to go outside and work in my garden for a little while. So I'm going to do this now because it's probably going to be a couple of hours before I come back in the house. So I'm just going to go through and do the same thing. I'm just going to wet my fingers again, and I'm just going to scrape the side and continue to do my stretch folds. Look at that already. So I'm going to go ahead and do probably 12 to 15 stretches. I'm going to cover it up, put my cloth back over it, and I'm going to head outside. So whatever time I come back in, I will be doing the next one. Okay, so it's 2 hours and 20 minutes later because I've been working in the garden. So sorry, I'm a little bit dirty. I did wash my hands well. We're just going to do another stretch and fold here. And then I'll probably come in and do 1 more. Like, look at that now. That's exactly what you want it to be. Alrighty, so I'm going to just keep on doing this for a couple of minutes. I'm going to cover it up and I'm going to set it back on my stove. I'll try to get 1 more stretch and fold done and just get it all organized on the stove until tonight when I get home. I'm back now and I'm just getting ready to go to my class, and look at how this has already started to rise. But I'm just going to do 1 more stretch and fold just to show you that it really doesn't matter. You can do them whenever you want. Really, if you don't get them all in, that's totally good. Oh, look at how bubbly it is. And then I'm going to let it sit while I'm gone, and when I get home, I'll be making it into 2 loaves and putting it in the fridge to ferment overnight. And then I just have to bake it in the morning. It's the easy part. I'm going to cover that up again, and I will come back just to show you how I get it in the baskets to put in my fridge overnight. Okay, welcome back. I just got home from my class and I'm going to get these into the Banneton baskets. Here we are. I have 2 of them. So I can get them into the fridge, and then we're all done for today until the morning when it's time to bake them. It is big. So I am just going to roll this into a bit of a ball, and I'm going to get a bit of rice flour here. There, I'm going to put that on my counter here just because it's pretty sticky. There we are. And I'm just going to let that sit just for a sec here while I get my Banneton baskets all ready. And all I'm going to do is just sprinkle some rice flour in. It's just that it stops it from sticking. So here's my 2 baskets, and I'll just put a little sprinkle of flour in both of them. This doesn't take very long, this part, so it's just quite quick. I'm just going to roll up my dough, and I'm going to try my best to pull it in and tighten it up on the counter, like so. And then we're going to put it in the fridge, and it's going to stay there till tomorrow morning. It's nice and tight. And I'm going to take my basket and the top side down. There we go. There's one. Let's get the other one here. Just tighten it all up. You hear all the bubbles in it. And that's the second one. And I use these large baggies, freezer bags. They're perfect because they just fit straight in, and you can seal it up, which is what you want. And then I am going to put them in the fridge, and we will come back in the morning. I will put my oven on first thing, and we'll take them out of the fridge, and I'll just tell you how I score them. We'll get them baked. So that is it for today. We will come back in the morning, and we will bake these 2 beautiful loaves. So I'm back again, and we are going to get these sourdough loaves baked. So I've taken them out of the fridge. They're all puffed up. There we are. There's 1, 2. Now what I'm going to do is I have 2 Dutch ovens in my oven, and I've got this little mat, the silicone mat, which is really good, saves the parchment paper. I am going to turn my loaves out. There's 1. And there's the other. I'm just going to brush off the excess rice flour that I used. There. And we're going to score them, and we're going to get them in the oven. So I have my oven set at 500, and I'm just going to take one of my razor blades, like so. Now to score it, you need to go deep. So all I do is do a big circle around, and I literally saw it in deep as I can go with where my fingers are on the razor blade. There, and I'm going to put a couple of little lines and a couple little lines here, and we'll do the other one. Big circle around on a bit of an angle. Probably goes at least a ½ inch deep, at least. And a couple more there. Okay, so we are ready to get these in the oven. I'm going to get my oven mitts on. Don't forget that, because you've got to take the lids off, and it's hot. And I'm going to pop these in. Lid back on. We're going to close that back up, and we are going to set the timer for 20 minutes. So in 20 minutes, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to take the lids off and set my timer again for 10 minutes. Now, I really find you have to watch in that last few minutes. If they start to get too dark, they still taste delicious, but they get so crunchy. So keep an eye. I think the total is about 30 minutes altogether. So I'm going to come back when these are coming out of the oven. Okay, my timer just went. I'm going to get these loaves out. Whoa. One. And there's the other. I'm going to leave my pots in the oven to cool off, and look at those two loaves. So just let me show you this loaf. That's beautiful. So I could have scored it a little deeper. As deep as you can with that razor blade. So I'm going to let these cool off, and I'm going to cut into it and show you the crumb. I had a few people ask me to show the crumb, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut into the smaller loaf. I'm taking the larger loaf to my daughter later today. So let's just cut it in half and take a look. Sounds so crunchy. Still a little hot, but look at that. Even, airy. No clumps of flour. I would say we have a perfect sourdough loaf. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope the update will fill in a few little gaps that you didn't catch before. Happy baking with your sourdough loaves. West Coast Grandma is signing out.